Hello, everybody. This is Joaquin, and I'm here with
Jae.
And this is the Overflow Podcast at thisisoutcry.com. And we're a little subdued right now. I can't get too hyped because it's raining. So the rain.
What does that got to do with us?
I don't know. We're not getting wet because we're inside and the rain's outside. I have no idea where I was going to go with that. Bunch of weirdos. So what's up, man? How you doing this week, bro?
Yeah. No.
You're not doing this week?
I'm not doing this week.
Why are you not doing this week, man? What's going on? Talk to me.
No. Let's get into our.
You're not gonna talk to me?
No. We can get into that later. Unless it's backwards podcast day.
What do you mean? No, man. We always talk about what's going on, right?
Yeah.
What's going on, man?
Yeah, but what's going on is what we're gonna talk about today. So
what's going on is what Jay's gonna talk about. 'Cause this is all Jay. His thing today. He's like, I got a word. So
I got a new word.
we're gonna have to see what happens. I'm like, well, sure. So anyway, we've got a couple of topics we want to kind of touch on because they're interesting. So we're gonna start off with the first two topics, which are a little more serious, and then we'll go to the lighter-hearted topics. Because they're going to make us feel a little better about ourselves after these first two topics. And then as always, as we started to do, we got a really, really dope song before we get into the Bible portion of this podcast. So with that being said, Jay.
Yo.
Did you hear? Now this little topic is actually going to be pretty short. This first one. Because I don't really want to get too deep into it because it's pretty horrific, and that's what the title says.
And even the title says so.
The title says it's horrific. So did you hear that in Syria, Iraq, where ISIS was, they found 72 ISIS mass graves.
So not 72 graves, 72 mass graves.
Mass graves. Right. So in other words, they're holding as many as 15,000 victims.
What?
All right, so that's 15,000.
That's
15,000.
That's like a city.
Yes, that's a small city. Yes. In New York, that's a housing project. No, but yeah, and the crazy thing is that they haven't even really begun really excavating a lot of these. So, it could be it could end up being more than 15,000 people.
That's okay. So they know that it's ISIS.
Yes, it's a territory that was I believe was reclaimed from ISIS.
Okay, so that means that in those 15,000, there are a lot of Christians.
A lot of
Muslims. Muslims who weren't down with the whole Sharia law thing.
Right.
A lot of children.
Right,
yes. Because that's
and a lot of the Yazidis. Remember, there were the ones. They consider them a cult. And there's still like hundreds of Yazidi women that are in captivity, being used as sex slaves.
As sex slaves, yeah, and children also.
So
Let's move on.
Yeah, like that's
just rough.
That's just it boggles the mind, and it's like I'm outraged, but like no one else seems to be. It's like a couple of months back. I don't know if you saw or if you had heard like where they had, like put some people in a cage and like set them on fire.
Yeah, set them on fire. Yeah, I think that's when I stopped because. I as you know, and I'm pretty sure I've mentioned it during the podcast, but I work for the news. I work for the news media, and like I've seen a few videos, like raw footage that've been uncut, and like, yeah, I get angry inside, and then it's just like it's too much. So I stopped actually watching any video that has the word ISIS attached to it.
Right.
Because I can't handle it. I can't deal.
Well, I mean, I'll read articles, but no, when it comes, I can't watch videos though, because a lot of those videos are so.
Because it was
terrible.
The 30 Coptic Christians. I saw that one where they set the kids on fire. I saw one where they drowned a whole bunch of people, like they tied up or they handcuffed people in a cage, and then they just drowned them all. Like they put the entire cage, submerged it underwater, and left it there for hours, and then lifted them up, and I can't.
Yeah, that's
that's just pure evil. I can't. I can't. And there's so much hatred in that. In all those acts. I no.
Yeah, it's pretty messed up. It's pretty messed up. But from there, we're gonna go to something else that's kind of pretty messed up.
Just not as messed up.
Just not as messed up. So, have you heard about what Russia has done? So
no. You started telling me that, but I hadn't heard about
it. It was last month they had passed these. They're calling them anti-terrorism laws.
It's funny how, that it's a broad blanket.
Correct. Right. So apparently, the kind of the genesis of why these laws were passed was because of, remember the Egyptian plane that blew up. Was it last year? I think.
Yeah.
And I think there was like a lot of Russians on that plane, right? So, they're wanting to clamp. I mean, the idea, I'm thinking from my bit of reading, the idea is they're wanting to clamp down on any kind of Islamic terrorism type stuff, right? However, the problem is that it's so broad that the ones that are, a lot of the people that are getting kind of, or potentially going to be dragged into this, and it's already started because it was like passed in July, it's gone in effect, are Christians. So here's the law that they just passed in Russia. Okay, and I'm just gonna read the little blurb here from this article. And the article's on Newsweek, so you can't even try to say, oh, you just went to some weird Christian blog and tried to, All right, this is Newsweek. They're very liberal, right? So my bases are covered. So the anti-terrorism law prohibits religious gatherings in non-registered areas, which could reportedly include private homes. It also restricts promoting religion on the internet, missionary work, or sharing faith without possessing certain documents to do so, which could lead to fines of up to the equivalent of $765 for a Russian citizen and up to $15,000 for an organization. So like a missionary organization.
So a missionary.
Yeah.
And deportation.
While a foreign violator would be deported. So what we're seeing is.
So wait. I gotta see something. There's something that you said there that caught my attention.
Was it what?
Without possessing certain documents to do so. So you need to get documents, like permission from the government.
So it's like you have to have a permit so that you can talk about
Jesus,
talk about God, right? Now this blankets, like to be, it's not just Christians. Like another article I read, there was a couple of pastors that were arrested. There was a Hare Krishna person that was arrested.
But let's be real. There will be like a crackdown on missionaries.
Well, that's the fear, and now they have.
It's what they're doing in France.
They have arrested. They have arrested a couple of people. And arrested them and then let them go. And then they have to wait for their court date.
Right.
Pay their fine or whatever.
Yeah.
But the thing is, apparently Russia's already had kind of similar laws, but they never really enforced them. But now, the thing is that
with all the terrorism going around.
So if you think about it, it's like what we're doing right now. We could get arrested and fined if we were in Russia.
Right. Thank God we're not.
Right. So like, I was just thinking like just posting, like when we post the Bible verse on Tuesdays, like that could get us fined. just posting the Bible verse.
Yeah, as controlled as the internet is over there.
So on the one hand, it's crazy. It's funny because I heard about this. I hadn't heard about this until this morning when they talked about it on the 700 Club that I happened to be watching at work. And I was just like, whoa, because what some people are saying is that basically over the last, let's say 10 years, maybe you might make the argument 15 to 20. Russia's actually been going backwards. They're becoming back to being a little bit more totalitarianism. Back to
somebody said USSR glory days.
Somebody said that and some of this stuff is like going back to like 1929 or whatever. Some were saying even Khrushchev in the 60s when he was cracking down on Christians.
So Putin's always been talking about how he wants to, make Russia USSR again.
Right, he wants to kind of bring it back. So I mean, the thing is this, right? It's like, what these folks are about to face, if they're not already facing it, that's real persecution, real religious persecution, right? And even the Christians, I read an article the other day in Egypt. Things have gotten really bad for the Coptic Christians again, where their churches are getting burned down or they're getting attacked or this, that, or the other, and it's and this is gonna sound weird. I like reading about these things.
Yeah, that sounds weird,
right? Because it reminds me of number one, how freedom good we have it. How good, right? We have it here, and number two, it reminds me to because I have it good here, I need to remember my brothers and sisters in the faith over there.
Correct.
And to pray for them and to advocate for them. Not necessarily advocate for them over there or to their governments, right?
Mm-hmm.
But to advocate even for them with fellow believers here, because we tend to be kind of myopic, right? We tend to kind of be like, that's over there.
Yeah.
Oh no, they won't let me wear a cross. I'm being persecuted, and it's like
I can't wear my baseball cap to church.
And
you see, that's funny you say that, right? Because when I saw the video of the Coptic Christians being beheaded, and I got angry because of that, then
Correct.
What got me angrier was thinking of all the ridiculous things that Christians here hold on to as persecution, right?
Correct.
I can't wear. I went to this church and they looked at me funny because I was wearing jeans and my J's and a t-shirt. Oh, that's why I hate going to church, because they're so judgy. And meanwhile,
right.
on the other
Correct.
side of the world, you give out a sticker that says Jesus loves you, you get put to death. Right?
Not even that.
And it's like,
not
hey,
even, not even that. Not even a sticker.
So
in places overseas, right? You just need to belong to the wrong minority group.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys are Christians. You belong to that Christian group. We're gonna burn your church down.
Yeah. We're gonna
with you in it.
We're gonna kill your family. Yeah, and I think one of our podcasts was on this, like true persecution.
Oh, yeah, it's like
and your fake persecution.
It was on haters, right? You're not being hated on, son.
They were looking at you funny. Maybe your T-shirt had bloodstains on it or whatever, but it doesn't matter. Let's keep things in perspective. Someone told me, well, it's all relative. It's like, no, it's not all relative. It's whiny crybabies over here trying to find something that invisible to hold on to and make real issues and real things outside of the United States, right?
Correct.
So it's like, you know what?
No.
I'm gonna borrow.
Step on my
I'm
soapbox.
gonna borrow your soapbox.
My soapbox is right there because
I'm gonna borrow your soapbox.
But it's funny because I saw another Christian rap video, some dude talking about his haters. And people can't keep me down, and haters can't keep me down. And I'm like, nobody. My first response was, I don't know who you are, so I don't know that you got that many haters. But I throw a lot of shade, and I don't care.
Oh my goodness!
But so it's
perspective.
One of the-
I want all of these
but
people
you know what? It
who
is-
complain about this fake stuff to go overseas and do mission work somewhere.
That's the thing. It is.
Right? Go out there and do mission work.
But it is perspective. The problem is that our perspective is very selfish because we're worried about, that I can't wear a Christian shirt to this place, right, or whatever, or I can't wear my cap, that's got Jesus on it. I can't wear it to work. They're persecuted. No, listen. We live in a society that accommodates all kinds of religions, all kinds of things, and you can express you're not going to go to jail if you wear your hat. They might tell you, you know what, please take the hat off, just because we have a whole bunch of different kinds of people living here,
Like
working here. Let's say.
Yeah, I used to wear this. I had this T-shirt back in my.
But that's not persecution.
Let me see. How can I put this? Back in my on fire days, let's say, right? Pentecostal on fire
your
days.
Pentecostal days.
I had this T-shirt that had like a sketch of supposedly the hand of Jesus with a hole in the center, right?
Right.
And it said, "Let him give you a hand," right? And I remember I wore it to work one day, and my boss was like, "Take that shirt off, Jay." I was like, "I'm not gonna take off my shirt because this is what I believe in." Like I went off, and the dude pulled me aside and said, "Hey, that's great. I know that you're a minister, right?
Right.
But this is your job. It's not the place for it, right? You don't see me wearing, Hitler killed all my relatives and all my people. What? You don't see me doing that. I mean, I get it. I love what you do, but this is work, right? This is your workplace. Here's a new T-shirt. You just put that one on in the car. They put it back on during lunch when you're outside. Do your thing." And I'm like, you know what? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, you got to learn. You got to
Thank
learn.
you.
Yeah, you got to learn to pick your battles.
Yeah. Not only that, but even like in in Bible college when you're learning, this thing called proper etiquette, right? You gotta have like etiquette. You gotta know when to do and what to say and when to say it and how to do things. It's not just I'm gonna kick your door in. I'm gonna beat you over the head with the Bible because I'm an on-fire Christian and I will not be persecuted or shut down.
Yeah, because I'm just going to do whatever I want to do. want. So,
Jesus wouldn't take that.
So let's
read your Bible because Jesus also didn't do any of that.
Yeah, so that's... I don't think there was any Christian merchandise.
But good news.
Around.
Yeah. You don't want me to get into that one.
So let's talk about... So why don't you talk about...
I'll get in your soapbox and I'll set it on fire.
So why don't you talk about the one that you had not sent me, the story that you did not send me.
That I didn't send you, that I thought I sent you. Hold on, let me pull it up so like that I don't
mess it up.
Yeah. So a couple days ago, see this one I did see. Nope, that's not the one. I'm trying to get.
Jay is unprepared.
I am. I didn't know you were gonna throw this at me.
Yeah, we talked about it.
We did talk about it, but I thought you were gonna handle it.
All right.
All right. So I got it.
All right. Finally.
So a couple days ago, I got these dumb pop-ups. I got a news update, right? Because with all the crap news that we get and all the bad news, like the stuff that we just spoke about, sparingly. It's good to get like some good news, right? And this funny thing that I think I remember now why I didn't send this to you, because when I read this, I was like, this is some good news, this is dope. And then of course the next one is this preaches. I could get a sermon out of anything.
So you didn't want me to steal your sermon,
but it came out on the news a couple of days ago that an FSU, Florida State University player, Travis Rudolph, right, who's like a star player, right? The team was visiting, I think it was a middle school.
Right, some players of the team.
Right, some players of the team was visiting a middle school, and this guy, Travis Rudolph, who's like I guess he's like one of the top players of the team.
Right.
He went to lunch, into the lunchroom, and he saw that this kid was sitting by himself. Right, so while all the other players were interacting with all the other kids and whatever, he got up took his lunch over to the table where this kid was by himself, and he sat with him and ate lunch with him. Now,
Right.
the awesome thing about the story is not just that he did that, but apparently this kid was ostracized because he's autistic.
Right.
Right. So he's not quote unquote normal. You know,
Right.
he's got his things.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't think, it's funny because from the way I read it, it was just because he's different. No one wanted to sit with him. So I don't think it was like ostracized in the sense that people were like, "Ew, don't sit with him."
Well, he was ostracized because he's different, and he's different because he's autistic. Right. So it's it doesn't matter how we try to paint it. It's all connected. But the deal is, no, it was that because in the article that I read, the mom stated how like kids reject him.
Okay.
Because like he has his mannerisms, he has his little things, and kids reject them or they don't want to be with him. Like they purposely don't want to be with him,
Right.
Because of the little things that he does that comes from his autism. So, a friend of the mother took the picture, right, of the kid,
and send it to her
with what's his name again, Travis Rudolph, and sent it to her, right, and that's it. And from what I hear, it got like over 8,000 shares. And
yeah, I saw it on Facebook.
You saw it on Facebook?
Yeah.
No, it's funny. I read the article first, and then somebody tagged me or something on Facebook, and when I opened the Facebook, I saw it there. So then I went and I shared it also because I think it's a dope story. It needs to be shared because nobody. And the what impacted me the most was that the mom was saying how like it hurts her because she knows what's going on, right? When he's being rejected or why the reason why kids won't sit with him or why he's not invited to birthday parties anymore, but he himself doesn't see it. He has no clue and it doesn't affect him and he's just happy with his life, right?
Yeah. And,
so
and that preaches too, though. Right?
Yeah. That's the part that preaches.
A lot of this story preaches. A lot of it.
That's the part that preaches.
There's more than there's like 2 or 3 different things that preach. See, you're just not looking for it.
No, I'm looking for it, but it's very easy for us to go on all these rabbit trails. But yeah, and it didn't take anything. Like he wasn't forced. The player didn't know who he was or what the problem was.
Saw a kid sitting
he just
alone.
had compassion for this kid that was sitting alone on a table during lunch.
That preaches.
And yeah, definitely. Because we've all been there. We've all felt the sting of rejection. We've all felt the sting of, not belonging, right? Let me stop now because it's real easy to dip in to the preachy part. But yeah, it's a real feel-good story for all the craziness that's going on around us.
Yeah. Then we had another one, which will be real quick, just because I thought it was a very cool thing. So there was this guy, and his stepdaughter. He had
that one preaches too.
His birthday was like a couple of weeks back, and their family, they have Sunday dinner, so everybody comes in for Sunday dinner, and so the girl had a stepdad, and she had wanted to be adopted by him for like years, and but the dad would never sign off.
Her real father.
Her real father would never sign off to let him do that. So when she turned 18, she thought, well, I guess I'll never be able to get adopted by him. So she's saying that her boyfriend was like, no, you can get adopted as an adult.
Yeah,
So
I didn't know that.
yeah, you can. So she
Not that I want to be adopted.
so she did the research, and they met for Sunday dinner, and she gives him this bag, and so the guy opens it up and he pulls out the pen because she put the adoption papers and a pen, and he pulls out the pen, and like the picture, he's all excited because it's a really nice pen, he's all excited about the pen, and I'm thinking
must have been a Mont Blanc.
What a humble dude, right? Just to get excited about a nice pen.
Unless it was a Mont Blanc.
No, he would have. He would have had a heart attack because those are crazy expensive. But then he looked in the bag again. He noticed the paperwork. He pulls it out, and he knows his adoption papers. And the girl says, "Will you adopt me? You don't have." She goes, "You don't have to if you don't want to."
Yeah.
You know, but I would like for you to, you know, I wanted to be your daughter. I want you to adopt me. And he was just crying. Everyone else in the room was crying. He went and hugged her.
That's awesome.
And he had raised this girl. Her mom was married before, had 4 kids, left the relationship because it was abusive, met this guy, married this guy with the 4 kids, and he helped raise all of them. All 4 of them. And she's the oldest. She's like 22. And they're like, yeah, he always, anytime we ever needed, and he's always there, always stepped up to do the job, basically, right? To do the job of a father.
Yeah.
You know, and the neat thing about the story was that, you know, it said all the other kids.
Right, I was going to ask about the other brothers.
Would eventually want also to be adopted by this guy. And I was just, you know, I mean, that's so amazing to me because, you know, the reality is, and you know, it's hard. It's hard to step in as a stepdad kind of situation.
Yeah.
With someone else's kids, right? And
yes,
so
it is.
I mean, you could talk about it. I've dabbled a little bit.
No, you can talk about it.
You know, and it's a very difficult thing to step into this whole other dynamic. It's a very difficult thing to.
You spend the entire time walking in eggshells.
Right.
Walking on eggshells.
And it's a very difficult thing. But man, this dude, like, just since she was 10, man, and he raised her as his own. He's raised all these other kids as his own. I think that's a beautiful picture.
That preaches.
You know, and that preaches because, I mean, really, that's what God does, man.
That's exactly what he does.
Right? He steps in to help raise us.
And he adopts us as his children.
So, I mean, it's just, like I said, it's just such a beautiful story. That's like, man, it's got to be shared. It's just got to be shared because there's so much sadness and so much whack and dumb stuff going on in this world. And it's always good to hear something nice.
Don't start getting dusty now.
All right, man. So with that being said, I went and killed animals today as I hunted. Manly things. Okay. So,
oh, great. Now Peter's going to be at the...
Peter don't listen to us. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into...
So what song have you got for us today?
The song for the night. Now, this is a group called Kings Kaleidoscope. I discovered them about a year or so ago. I happen to like them a whole lot. I think they're very, very dope. They got a very interesting sound. They actually were part of, if I remember right, they were part of Driscoll's church, Mars Hill.
Okay.
As one of the worship bands. And so now they're more of a band, but like a band, you know, like a regular band, but they still have that worship aspect. This is one of their. This is a song they did called "Fix My Eyes." It's off of one of their albums, but this is off of an acoustic album, and I'll tell you the album at the end of the song. But it's called "Fix My Eyes," and I just, you know, after Jay told me about what he wanted to talk about today and looked at the scripture, I thought, you know, man, this song, in a way, really kind of fits into this idea of you know, of the topic for today. So the song is "Fix My Eyes" by Kings Kaleidoscope.
My soul is weak when it seems I can't traverse the trail before me. I survey the glory of your agony, and I find the will to fight for what's before me. 'Cause you ran the race, enduring for your glory. I fix my eyes on you, the founder and the finisher of our faith. I fix my eyes on you, Solace in your suffering is my strength. As I fight to follow in my righteous guide, and you train me to delight in all that's holy. You're my broken body, you're my crooked stride. Throw off every weight that sin clings so closely. I will run the race, enduring for your glory. I fix my eyes on you, the founder and the finisher of all faith. I fix my eyes on you. Solace in your suffering is my strength. You help me breathe. You're the only life I need. You'll die for me. You're the only life I need. You help me breathe. You're the only life I need. You'll die for me. You're the only life
And that is Fix My Eyes by King Kaleidoscope. It's off an album called Live in Color. And
Yeah.
it's a beautiful song. Like I said, it's a favorite song of mine. It's one of those songs I like to listen to when I'm feeling like when things seem to be smacking me in the face.
It was rougher for me to hear it this time than the first time.
All right. So why was that, Jay?
But okay, so 3 months ago, and I don't remember, right, as far as podcasts are concerned, like we did cover something that happened to my household, to me, my wife, our son. 3 months ago, he suffered what is known as a febrile seizure. Now, what a febrile seizure is something that happens to babies when they have a fast fever spike, right? So apparently, Cal was having a fever. Well, he had a fever, and it shot up to 102 really quickly, and because of that, his body couldn't catch up to protect him, so it seized. Like he seized for 7 minutes. But to me, being his father, and then also holding him, I was carrying him when it happened. It felt like an eternity. It was probably the most painful thing that I suffered through until it happened again this past Sunday night. And this time, it wasn't even, his fever didn't even get that high. He went from normal to, which is nothing, right? Because our normal body temperature is 98.6, right? And his fever shot up to 99.3. But it happened so fast that he seized again. And again, I was carrying him. And this one was only for 3 minutes. For 3 minutes because like at that moment, holding him and feeling him in my arms as he was seizing and looking at him. And it was just the scariest thing I've ever had to live through. But I thank God for my wife, because like as I was sitting there and those 3 minutes having a crisis of faith. Like she snapped into action and like ran downstairs and got the medicine and gave it to him, which is funny, right? It sounds like it's a lot, but all that happened in like a few, like everything that she did happened like in less than a minute.
Right.
So it only, because of that, the seizure this time only happened. It was only for 3 minutes, and like we jumped in the car and drove down to Scottish Rites. But it's 5 days. Today is 5 days since that happened, and the fever hasn't let him go. Like he's still with this fever that just comes and goes, and it's frustrating because, I mean, if any of you have met Cal, then you know that he's like a happy baby. He's always smiling, always playing. Sometimes it worries me because he's sometimes a bit too friendly. All right, he gives high fives to everyone, hugs. It's funny. You tell him to say goodbye to anybody, and he'll wave goodbye and blow kisses. It's like it's it's awesome, and like it's hard. It's hard for me to see him like this. It's hard for me to know that he's suffering, and there's nothing I can do. Right? Know that he's like, he'll be fine 1 minute, and then the next second, the fever comes back out of nowhere, and he'll shoot as fast as 101. And we and Magdalena and I, we have to like run fast and like try to and give him his medicine and put cold towels on him so that his body can start cooling down so that he won't have another seizure. So when we went to the hospital Sunday night, they basically just, you know, they monitored him, they checked all his vitals, and everything was fine. The biggest takeaway from 3 months ago and now is that no one knows the reason why he gets these fevers. Like no one could find anything why. No doctors, no specialists. We went to a neurologist, brain activity, everything's fine. The fever just comes out of nowhere. And the worst part, well, the buildup is that on Sunday we had a very close family friend pass away last week when we were doing the podcast last Thursday. And on Sunday, we went to visit the family, my mom, Magda, the baby, and I. And it was while we were going there to go and be with this family and stand with them that I've known like my whole life that the fever first showed up. So it wasn't like he was playing or he's with other kids. We were in the car. And it was like, oh, well, you know, he feels kind of warm. And, you know, I could never tell Magda that she's going crazy again. And she's whatever, because she's the one, like, felt a little anxious. It's like, oh, but he feels warm. And I'm like, stop it. That's just you. You know, you're just being paranoid, whatever, because it's been rough for her since the first time. But she was right. So I can't say anything to her anymore. Hey,
well, I mean,
he feels a little warm. And I, you know, this time, what I'm saying is that I can't tell her, well, you're being paranoid. I got to go and I got to check also, because
she's going to get mad when I say this, but a broken clock is right twice a day.
Nah, you're retarded. I pray that you don't experience this. But
I won't.
But, you know, the deal is, it's rough, dude. It's rough. And it's hard for me, right, as a man of God, as a minister, right, as Pastor Jae, to see this and to experience and suffer through this, and like not look up into the heavens and ask God, why is this happening? Right? It's difficult. I mean, I'm not saying that it's hard for me to not do that, as in I'm saying that I haven't done that. Because if I say that I haven't done that, I'm lying. I've done it every day since Sunday. As I was holding him and he was seizing, I was crying before God and asking him, why is this happening? Right? I even went as far as asking him, why are you letting this happen? Right? Because that's how we know things to be as believers. Right? Why are you letting this out? Why? And then the worst part is looking to my wife, who is also having the same like crises of faith and also asking these same questions, but she's not asking God, she's asking me, right, as the high priest of the home. And when we met, she had basically come to the Lord like 3 months before we met, right? So like she's coming to me and asking me, and I have no answers. I have no answers. Not because there are no answers to be given, but I have no honest answers. It's very easy for me to go and speak Christianese and say, well, God has a purpose for everything, and you have to look. No, I don't want to hear that. So I know for a fact that she doesn't want to hear that.
Right.
Right? Real truth, real honest answers. Baby, why is this happening? And what killed me is that she said, I know that God can heal him instantly, and he's not. Why? Why isn't he? And all I could tell her is, I don't know. I have the same questions, which doesn't make her feel any better.
Right.
Right? Doesn't strengthen her faith, and I'm not gonna come to her and say, well, baby, we just gotta pray because, God is gonna do a miracle and he's gonna shine a light in this darkness and all this other nonsense and all this other crap that people have said to me, right? And I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it.
Yeah, it's not crap. It's just, it's at where you're at that moment that it means those things mean nothing to you.
It's nothing, because if you can't meet me where I'm at, then whatever you have to say isn't going to say. I'd rather you tell me I don't know, but I'm going to pray with you. I'm going to pray with you that God answers your question. I'm going to pray with you that God gives you peace during this, instead of just giving me some nonsense Christianese that you're just regurgitating, because that doesn't help. It doesn't help me physically. It doesn't help me mentally, spiritually. None of that. It doesn't help. Not at all. I'd rather you tell me, like when my dad died, thank God that people had the wisdom to say, I have nothing to say to make you feel better. Right. But my condolences. I'm with you.
Yeah,
whatever you need.
The hard thing,
that's great.
Yeah, well, because the hard thing is, because this is, this is what I think. I think that, I don't believe that everything happens because of a reason, because there's some underlying lesson or reason for it.
I agree.
The way I see it, Cal is having these fevers. Because that happens.
Yeah, people get fevers.
There's a small percentage of kids. We think, right, that it seems to happen the most when his teeth are coming in, as his teeth have been coming in. That seems to be what triggers it.
At least that's what we think.
That's what we think. That's what we're saying.
Because when
we're not doctors.
But when they asked the doctor that, the doctor says, you know what? That might be it. That sounds good. It's you know what? Yeah, that's a good idea. Let's go with what you said.
Because
what the hell?
Because look, it's funny because we, at the same time, it's this weird thing of we expect doctors to know everything, and it's they, they don't. There's this stuff that's just you can't explain it. And I've talked to other parents that had the same kind of things where they're yeah, my kids started to have teething and they would get fevers.
Yeah, well, and that brought me some comfort, because I've had friends to tell me that. I've had family tell me that it happened to their kids also.
Right.
My coworker today told me that happened to both his kids. Right. So it's okay. So I'm not alone. I'm not alone. But
to the point though is that why is God letting this happen? Because it's happening. I don't necessarily think that God is letting this happen. This is happening. We forget. And I know I've said this before, and people always look at me like I'm got another nose growing out of my face. But we forget this. We forget that we live in a fallen world. We live in a broken world. And so because we live in a fallen and broken world, and this isn't to make anybody feel better, because this definitely doesn't make anyone feel better, but because we live in a broken and fallen world, you know what? It's messed up. So, we get the sicknesses, we get the, and God is, I think, God is sitting there. He's like, look, and, pray. I can bring you comfort. I can heal it, but, but it still happens. People get sick. It's
people get sick. People die. Things still happen.
It's like when people tell you, oh, don't go outside without your coat because it's cold. And it's whatever, you don't get sick because you went outside and it's cold. You get sick because there's these things called viruses, and attack you, and
But check this out. Listen, so
it just happens.
the next after we left the doctor's office, right? The doctor at Scottish Rites told us that a seizure is likely to come back the first 24 hours after he's had one, right? So watch him closely because you have that 24-hour window after it happened,
right?
10:43 at night, Sunday night, to 10:43, Monday night. It could, he can have another one. So of course I didn't go to work, right? Because I'm not even thinking about work. I didn't go to work, and we stayed monitoring, we stayed watching, we stayed praying for each other, praying for Cal,
Right.
and I'm still asking all these questions, right? Even in prayer, asking all these questions. But how awesome God is that even though we had all these questions, right, and all this faith doubt, I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. All this faith doubt, Magda starts reading the Psalms, like just randomly reading out of the book of Psalms, right, while Cal was sleeping, and I'm laying in bed like, I don't want to hear the Psalms right now. Right? Put on a movie. I don't want to hear Psalms right now, right? But
Read
it
me
brought
numbers.
it brought us such comfort, right? And then Cal woke up. I gave him medicine. We're trying to rock him back to sleep. There's an actual rocking chair in the bedroom, and Magdalena takes him, and she's rocking him back to sleep. And she's like, well, can you keep reading? I'm like,
I want to read.
fine, right? So I open it up, and I'm like, well, let's go to this psalm that I always go to whenever I have questions before God, and it's Psalm 40. And it starts, patiently I waited on the Lord, and he inclined to me, and he heard my cry, and he set my foot on the rock, right? And then I start bawling, and Magda's over there bawling, right? And we just, through all 24 hours, we're praying for each other, we're praying for the baby, and we're reading out of the Psalms, right? And it brought such comfort and such peace to us. But still, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, right? The fevers come and go. The fevers still come. We've gotten no sleep. And then, when I'm still reading and I'm still trying to seek comfort, I come across Romans. And I come across Romans 5, and I sent it to you. And I'm reading Romans 5, 1 through 5, right? I'm going to read the whole thing, and then I'm going to get into the title for today and what threw me off, because this is such a weird thing to read and to understand, right? So it says, therefore, since we have been justified by faith, we have peace with God through our Lord Jesus Christ. Through him, we have also obtained access by faith into this grace in which we stand, and we rejoice in hope, of the glory of God. Here it comes. Not only that, but we rejoice in our sufferings, knowing that suffering produces endurance, and endurance produces character, and character produces hope. And hope does not put us to shame, because God's love has been poured into our hearts through the Holy Spirit who has been given to us. I can't. And that just killed me. That killed me. And I sent it. I was at work. And I sent it to Magdalena, and I emailed it to her, and I'm like, look what I just found. Or I don't know if you're gonna take comfort or solace in this, but you read that, we rejoice in our sufferings. It's like, what the hell? Who rejoices in their sufferings, right? What? Who can imagine suffering through something and rejoicing in it? But I thought back to Monday, how the only thing that brought us peace and brought us comfort was reading the Word in the midst of our suffering.
Right.
Return to God, right? It could have been real easy for us as people, as humans, born into the sinful flesh, into the sinful world, to shake our fists at heaven, shake our fists at God and say, you're doing this and you're doing this and you're letting it happen and anything can happen, right? But it's for us to turn to God even in the midst of our suffering and find peace, find understanding, find love and compassion still in those things, right? Even in the midst of everything, we still find a light, a beacon in our sufferings, and know that that beacon pours out his peace, pours out his love, right? Because I'm going to read it again because this is the most important part, because suffering produces endurance, right? And endurance, this is, like I said, this is day 5 that he's still struggling with the fever. And day 5, we're still here believing that God's going to heal him, knowing that God's going to heal him, right? Knowing that God's is giving us the strength to endure, giving him the strength to endure, right? And endurance produces character, right? Because after this, because it's just, there is no way that Magda and I, let's say this were to happen again, because the window for febrile seizures is open until the kid is 5 years old, right? So there is no way that this is going to happen again and we're going to get shaken up by this again.
Right.
There is no way that he's going to have another seizure and we're going to start having faith crises or doubts or anything, because we know that God handled it the first time, he handled it the second time, and he'll handle it the third, fourth, fifth, sixth time, right? Because he's still God, and he's still sovereign, and he's still in control, and he still has power over everything, right? We have to recognize that and pray it out and pray it on and keep it moving, right? And character produces hope, right? Because right now, the only hope that we have is in Jesus Christ. The only hope we have is in God. That one day we're going to wake up and the fever is going to be gone. And the fear is going to be gone. And the anxiety and the worry is all going to be gone. Because God stepped in. And our only hope, because the doctors had no answers. Because each time, we don't know. We don't know what's going on. We don't know what's bringing these fevers. He has no other symptoms. Everything is fine. Right. We don't know. You know, the last time we thought it was something called roseola because he broke out in a rash afterwards. There's no rash. There's no anything. There's no nothing. Right? So now it's like everybody's just blundering, not knowing what's going on. Right? So our only hope is in Jesus. To me, to tell you that when we went to the doctor came out and brought like a medical dictionary and said, you know what? Yeah, look, it says it right here. So you might be right. Like, you're the doctor. You're the expert, right? That's like,
right.
Like,
that's what we expect.
No, yeah, we expect, I mean, don't come to me and give me 100% assurance, but don't also have me leaving your office like doubting your expertise and wanting to find a new doctor.
Oh, but you see, that's the thing, though, right? He knew where to look for the answer. That's what makes a good doctor.
Because I could have done the same thing. There's a medical dictionary at home. Let me look at the medical dictionary.
Well, but
and there is also Dr. Google. I mean, it's just.
But then you end up with cancer, and and your left leg's gonna fall off.
Right, and it says so. Right now, our only hope is in Jesus Christ. Right, and he continues to say that hope does not put us to shame, because God's love has been poured into our hearts through the Holy Spirit who has been given to us. And with all that, I'm saying this. Right, I've been a servant for God knows how long. Not perfect in any way, right? But I know that I love God, and I know that God gave up his son for me, right? And I know that he poured out his blood for all of mankind. Whether you choose to believe it or not does not negate or take away the fact that he poured out his blood for you. Right, and I know that by his stripes we are healed. I know all the cliches. I know all the things written in the Bible, right? But that counts for nothing. All the knowledge that we can have counts for nothing. Nothing, because in the moment of crises, in the moment of our suffering, if it's easy for us to be pushed away, right? Then whatever we know, it's stupid. Because we have nothing that we're standing in, nothing that we're standing on.
Right.
You can know the problems, you can know the promises in your head,
right, and
not live them or have them rooted in your heart, and it's meaningless.
Yeah, it goes back to the parable of the seeds. Some on rocks, some on but when Jesus says, some fall among the thorns,
Yes.
and then when they grow, and the thorns choke it out. So, we know that one way to look at thorns are these trials and these things that we're going through, and if we allow those things, right, they can choke it out. And if they choke it out, and we just go like, whatever, I'm done, then we never really had a deep, abiding faith.
Yes, exactly. And there's this, I have this saying that goes, faith isn't faith. Like, your faith is not real faith unless it's the only thing you're holding on to, right? You never know how much faith you have until that faith is tested, right? Because you can say, I got faith in Jesus. I got faith in Jesus. Right. And then the first problem shows up, you're out.
You're out. Yeah, because we have to, I think that, one of the problems that we face, because this happens to all of us, right, is that we think because I have faith in Jesus, because he's a good father, that somehow we're going to be exempt from problems.
From all life sufferings.
Exempt from bad things happening. And then the question then, right, is not, the question isn't, well, is God there when bad things happen? I think the real question is, is your faith there when bad things happen?
Yes, exactly.
James, right? James, when he talks about, count it joy when you meet trials of various kinds, for that the testing of your faith produces steadfastness. Let steadfastness have its full effect, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking in nothing. To me, the thing is this: it's, bad things are going to happen.
Yes,
there's no escaping it. And there can be no rhyme and reason for it. It could just be something bad happened. In those moments as believers, because this is hard for me, is I say, okay, God, I know this bad thing is happening, but I'm just going to trust you.
Yes.
That whether or not this works out how I want it to work out, right, I'm still going to believe that you're a loving Father, and that you're in charge, and that you're on the throne in heaven. And it reminds me, and it's really perfect example what your mom wrote about Abraham. Because Abraham took Isaac, not Abraham, it was Abraham. Abraham took Isaac.
Yeah, she wrote it backwards.
She wrote it back, right? Abraham took Isaac, right, to
be sacrificed.
To sacrifice him. And Abraham was like, now, here's, right, so the whole time, this is a bad thing. There's nothing good going on here, right? But the issue isn't, to me, right, the point isn't that God stepped in.
Yeah, that's not the greatest part of the story.
And stopped him. The point was that Abraham went through this unknowing, but saying, you know what, I'm still going to trust God. And I got a feeling that even if he had to sacrifice his son, right, he still would have trusted God.
He still would have trusted
and
God.
He still would have loved God. There's a lot of points, right? But that's in this arena, right? In this kind of topic, that's kind of the big thing, right? Is we don't know why bad things happen. There's no rhyme or reason. We don't know why your friend died. Yeah, she might have had medical issues, right? That might have contributed to it. But there's other people that have the same medical issues that are still alive and might live to be 80.
Yes, they are.
Right?
Yes, they are.
No rhyme or reason, because it's life, man. Right? It's the broken world we live in.
Yes. So the question, and the thing is, joy in our sufferings is unfathomable, right? You can't go through suffering or suffer anything, and
it's hard to be joyful,
and hard, it's hard to be joyful. But you gotta
practice that.
The joy comes in knowing that God is still God, right? He's still, regardless of the bad, of the suffering, whatever the craziness, he's still a good father.
Yeah,
he's still in control.
Yeah,
right. He's still sovereign. He still has you in the palm of his hand. Yeah. The battle there is, do you have enough faith to believe that during that suffering or not? Right.
Correct.
The end result is in you. It's not in God. Right. God is there and he's still working. Right. He's still working in your favor.
Yeah.
Right. He still has what? Endurance, strength, hope, because of the love poured into us. You see, that's a part. that we tend to forget sometimes, because it's hard to see that love when your son is seasoned in your hands and you don't know if something worse is going to come out of that, right? But you got to sit there and you got to believe that because of the love that God has poured into us, that he's got even this or anything that you're suffering through in his hands and under his control.
Yeah. I think of, Paul, right, when he gets locked up and they start singing hymns, and even later when he talks about, I have all this bad stuff has happened to me, right? But I'm still moving forward. I'm still pressing on. I'm still pressing on.
Pursuing
I'm still pursuing God, because it's not, ultimately, our faith is not about the good things that happen, right? It's not about the good, because the reality is it's easy to be faithful when things are fantastic.
Yeah, it's very easy.
Our faith is about the bad. It's about building that endurance. It's about saying, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know. I mean, it's like was it Bill Elliott? Was he the missionary that got eaten by the cannibals? Remember
in Ecuador?
And was it Ecuador? And his wife.
End of the spear.
End of the spear, right?
I don't remember his name.
I want to say it's Bill Elliott, but I don't think that's right. But I mean, what's the takeaway from that story? Is the perfect example of a real life thing, right? His wife went back, right, to the same people that killed and ate her husband. Right? Something terrible happened. I couldn't imagine, right? But you go back to it. Your faith through those tough times. That's where you find, like you were saying, that's where you find that joy. That's where you find that peace. Not when things are going good, but when things are crapping out and you feel like you're being flushed down the toilet.
That's the only way. As believers, because non-believers don't know what we're talking about and they won't be able to fathom what we're speaking of. But as believers, that is the only way we can find joy in our suffering. The only way. The only way you can find joy in your suffering is by knowing that your faith in God will provide and will bring all those things that we read in Romans 1, 5 through 6. And the steadfastness spoken about in James 1, and that builds our faith.
Yeah.
It builds our faith. It builds our belief, right? And not only that, but it builds our love for God and our love and understanding for others.
Those are testimony,
right? And that's what this is all about. Right.
Right.
It's either, and like you said, you believe, it's easy to believe and have faith in God when things are going great, right? But that's not a test of your faith. That's not a test of your love. Your faith and love can only get tested when it's put through the fire, when it's put through suffering and struggling, right? So with that, I just want to say that it's day 5, and the fever is still around, right? It's
right.
I mean, he's having more times, and the hours without fever are getting longer, right? So he'll be all day without a fever, and then it'll show up like at 3 or 4 in the morning, right? And
but he hasn't seized, right?
He hasn't seized since Sunday, right? So there's rejoicing in that. And but that's the fear, because the it's the fever, this fever spike that brings the seizure. Right. So if we can, for right now, what we've been doing is controlling the fever so that it doesn't spike up, right? And still believing in God, right? Because believing in God doesn't mean stop doing anything and just let it happen.
No,
right?
you do what you got to do. Yeah, you do the things that...
We're still caring for him. We're still watching over him, still believing in God. Right, so all day today he was fine, right? I showed you the pictures that were sent to me in the video. He's doing flips over the couch and playing with his nephew. that's a whole other story, right? And it's awesome. But now, before we started the podcast, Magdalena sent me a text saying that he went from being fine to having 100 point whatever fever, and quickly, it's already
Right.
routine. Like, really, she went and put a cold compress on his forehead and stayed with him and monitored him as it went down. And now he's asleep, right? So, it's still there.
Right.
And if he wakes up at 4 o'clock in the morning today, then tomorrow will be day 6, right? And 7, 8, whatever. But God is still God. And God will step in. Or God won't step in. And the fever will subside on its own.
Yep. And
Right.
God is still God.
But God is still God. Right? So that's the takeaway. So it's emotional for me. But it's emotional for me because that's my baby boy. And because even with all this, I know that God loves me.
Yes.
And I know that he's watching over all of us. Right? So with that, I'm going to take Kenito's line. With that being said, don't run away at the first sign of suffering. Stay believing in God, and
Steadfast.
God will bring you through it
Yes, He will.
because he's God.
So, taking my line back. With that being said, listen, you can guys catch us. Remember on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and SoundCloud. Love to hear back from any of you guys on any of those platforms. My name is Joaquin.
Still Jay.
And this is the Overflow Podcast at thisisoutcry.com.